Ron Dayne was one of the most dominant college football running backs during the late 90s at Wisconsin. Surprisingly, his collegiate success did not translate to the NFL, as he never eclipsed more than 1,000 yards rushing in his 8-year NFL career. But who is Ron Dayne? In the Who Is series, we go through the backstories of up-and-coming collegiate and pro athletes. Although Ron Dayne is not an up-and-coming athlete, I wanted to do something special for the 100th episode of the Who Is series, and y'all voted for Ron Dayne. I want to thank y'all for your support over this past year, leading to episode 100. When I started this series, I could have never imagined the support it would receive. Here is to episode 100, and many more to come. Ron Dayne was born on March 14, 1978 in Berlin Township, New Jersey. Dayne came from a rough home, with his father having violent tendencies and his mother struggling with drugs. On top of that, they would fight a lot, which led them to getting a divorce. Dayne spoke on the situation to the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association, saying, "It made me grow up. I had to raise my sister. I had to be like a parent at 10 or 11. After his parents divorced, Dayne and his sister Anya moved in with his uncle Rob Reed, who was a minister in Woodbury, New Jersey. From an early age, Dayne had great upper body strength and speed. He would stop growing once he hit 5'10", but still developed body mass. What made Dayne so special was the fact that although he gained body mass, he did not lose his great speed. Due to weight restrictions, Dayne was not able to play football until high school. He attended Overbrook High School in Pine Hills, New Jersey. While at Overbrook, Dayne would not just be great on the gridiron, but also dominate as a member of the track and field team. Dayne would win meet after meet, including the Penn Relays, and would win the state title for shot put and discus as a junior and senior. He would even be considered for the 1996 Olympic squad. On the gridiron, Dayne dominated, weighing 250 pounds, and he was used as a wrecking ball. He would play both fullback and tailback in high school, rushing for 1,566 yards and 27 touchdowns as a junior, and as a senior, Dayne rushed for 1,785 yards and 24 touchdowns while averaging 10 yards per carry. Coming out of high school, Ron Dayne was rated as the nation's best fullback by most of the recruiting services. Some schools worried that Dayne was too big to be a Division I tailback, but not Wisconsin and Barry Alvarez. Most schools believed Dayne would be a great blocking fullback, and Notre Dame even offered him to play defensive tackle. Alvarez and Wisconsin were one of two teams who believed Dayne could be a top-notch tailback at the Division I level. Dayne liked the idea of playing tailback and knew a little about Wisconsin due to former Overbrook Rams like Keith Jackson, Michael London, and Lee Duramis playing for the Badgers. Dayne spoke on his recruiting, saying, "Coach Barry Alvarez knew something. He felt special. He came to my house and gave me a big hug when he walked in the door. He's like, 'Ronnie.' I was like, 'Okay.'" Ron Dayne would accept the offer from Wisconsin and quickly make a name for himself, cracking the starting lineup as a freshman. When Ron Dayne got to Wisconsin, he brought a no-nonsense approach to the game and a blue-collar work ethic, according to the University of Wisconsin's website. Initially, Barry Alvarez only used Dayne at the end of games, not realizing the type of weapon he had on the roster. Once he realized how great Dayne could be, the New Jersey product became the feature back for the Badgers. After taking over the starting running back role, Dayne would dominate, breaking Herschel Walker's freshman rushing record, finishing the regular season with 1,863 yards. Dayne would break the NCAA record for yards in consecutive games with 628. He rushed for 289 yards against Illinois and followed that up rushing for 339 yards against Hawaii without playing the fourth quarter. He finished his freshman year rushing for 2,109 yards and 21 touchdowns while averaging 6.5 yards per carry. As a sophomore, Ron Dayne rushed for 1,457 yards despite missing 2 games and most of a third game after an injury. He also added 15 touchdowns on the ground and averaged 5.5 yards per carry. As a junior, Dayne would rush for 1,525 yards and 15 touchdowns, averaging 5.2 yards per carry. During the Rose Bowl, Dayne would rush for 246 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 38-31 win over UCLA. Dayne would be named the Rose Bowl MVP and would save his best season for his last, award-wise. Ron Dayne opened up his senior season rushing for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns against Murray State, averaging 6.8 yards per carry. He followed that up with 158 yards and a touchdown against Ball State, and 231 yards and a touchdown against Cincinnati, a game the Badgers would lose 17-12. The following week against number 4 Michigan, Dayne would only rush for 88 yards and a touchdown, and the Badgers would lose 21-16. The Badgers, now unranked, would go on to upset number 12 Ohio State 42-17, and Dayne would rush for 161 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dayne's worst rushing numbers came against Minnesota in a 20-17 win, where Dayne would only rush for 80 yards and a touchdown. Ron Dayne would then dominate the remainder of the season, rushing for 167 yards against Indiana, 214 yards against number 11 Michigan State, 162 yards against Northwestern, 222 yards against number 17 Purdue, and finished the regular season rushing for 216 yards and a touchdown against Iowa. The Badgers finished ranked 4th in the final AP poll behind eventual national champions Florida State, Virginia Tech, and Nebraska. They would play in the Rose Bowl for the second year in a row, beating number 22 Stanford 17-9, making the Badgers the only Big Ten team to win back-to-back Rose Bowls. Dayne would once again win MVP, rushing for 200 yards and a touchdown. Dayne finished his senior year with 2,034 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns while averaging 6 yards per carry. He went on to win the 1999 Heisman Trophy, beating out Joe Hamilton, Mike Vick, and Drew Brees, among others. Depending on how you view the record book, Ron Dayne finished his collegiate career as the NCAA career rushing yards leader with 7,125 yards and 71 touchdowns. The reason I say depending on the record book is because in 2002, the NCAA decided to start counting bowl game rushing yards for the record, but did not include bowl game yardage from anyone before. So the record is held by Donnell Pumphrey, who rushed for 6,405 career rushing yards, with Dayne only having 6,397 yards because his bowl game yardage does not count. Leading into the 2000 draft, many believed Dayne would be successful in the NFL, but some scouts believed he needed to go to a team that would feed him like the Wisconsin Badgers did. 6 of the starting offensive linemen Dayne played for were drafted into the NFL, including 5 in the first 4 rounds. 2 others also logged time in the NFL. Scouts were concerned about his weight, so he dropped 20 pounds leading up to his pro day, weighing 250 pounds, which according to him was the lightest he had been since 8th grade. Some believe Dayne needed to get down to 230 to be successful. He clocked around a 4.640, but it depends on who was clocking him. The New York Giants selected Dayne 11th overall in the 2000 NFL Draft and teamed him up with Tiki Barber, a pair that would be nicknamed Thunder and Lightning. The Giants raved about Dayne leading up to the start of the season. Dayne's best 2 seasons were his first and his last, rushing for 770 yards as a rookie and 773 yards for Houston in his last season. Between the Giants, Broncos, and Texans, Ron Dayne compiled 3,722 yards and 28 touchdowns while averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Ernie Accorsi admitted Dayne never really got a fair shot with the Giants due to them having Tiki Barber as their workhorse at the time. Ron Dayne is still a legend in Madison and lives in the area. Wisconsin retired Dayne's number 33 in 2010, and he was elected to Wisconsin's Athletic Hall of Fame in 2009, the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame in 2011, and the College Football Hall of Fame in 2013. Now, he focuses on raising his kids, telling the Wisconsin Alumni Association, "I wanted to be around because my parents never were." His daughter Jada played soccer at Michigan, his son Javian plays running back at Boston College, and his son Zion Dayne plays for Yale as a defensive lineman. He returned to Madison a few years ago to finish his Afro-American Studies degree, sitting in class with some students who weren't even born when he was playing for the Badgers. They all knew who Dayne was, though. Dayne told the Alumni Association, "The students acted like they didn't know me until the end of class. And when the class is done, there's a line outside. 'Mr. Dayne, can you sign this for me?' They played it cool all the way until the end." Although I was not able to see Ron Dayne back in the day, being born in 1999 myself, he will always be a legend in my eyes. As a fellow Badger, thank you, Ron Dayne. It's an honor to showcase you as my 100th episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other videos in the Who Is series. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, remember to embrace the grind.